Welcome back. It's time to talk about money. And on Your Money today, we're talking about youth unemployment. We had a story the other day that documented how a very accomplished Form 4 leaver who got a B+ wound up working as a watchman in the same high school that he worked for, which brought up the question of what is happening in this country and why are we suffering unemployment at very incredible rates. Now, joining me for that particular discussion to my very far right is Titus Miner, who is a lawyer and a think tank analyst, as well as Tessie Omulo, who's the co-director of EDI. Is that right? EDI?
Yes.
Okay, and as well as Emmanuel Maruti, who's head of Empower Plus Solutions. Now, a very young panel with us today, and I would like to know what you think. I'll start with you, Mr. Miner. What is wrong with the country? Why are we suffering this much in terms of employment? Yet we're very smart, we're very accomplished.
The main issue is that there are no formal jobs that are being created in the economy.
Right.
So if you look at the recent economic survey by KNBS, you find that very few jobs were created in the formal sector. So we created about slightly above 800,000 jobs, and 78,000 of those were in the formal sector.
Okay.
So most of the jobs are in the informal sector. Yeah.
But then, fine, most of the jobs are in the informal sector, and I'll give this one to you, Ms. Omulo. So why aren't we getting them if they're outside the formal sector? Because of course the government can only do so much, and we know how things happen in this country. So why don't we just look outside the formal sector?
I think even beyond looking outside, we have an issue where employers talk about the preparedness of graduates or young people. So how equipped are you in terms of your skills? Are you very skills oriented in terms of you honed? Exactly. Ready? So they complain that university have churned out a lot of graduates who are not skills, who do not have the right skills, I mean, to get employed into these companies. So we talk about how to bridge that gap in terms of preparing graduates to pretty much address that issue in terms of just preparing them for the job market.
And okay, then that brings in the question of the education sector. What is wrong with it? Because we have so many universities in every corner of this country, and we all have graduates. Every year we churn out graduates. But then if they're not ready, I mean, then what do we do to change this? I mean, what are some of the solutions?
I mean, I would say from my experience, I was privileged to go to a university, a private university, that beyond education, which is now what you're studying, maybe your major, they look at your holistic self as an individual. What kind of skills do you need? What does an individual beyond books need to survive or to succeed in life? And they try to encourage you or create spaces where you grow, you know, or you participate in areas where you become this holistic individual who can actually survive out of the country. So I think universities, beyond being private, I mean, a lot of private universities do that. But how can we now onboard public universities to do the same, to make sure they're thinking about how their students are not just being book smart, but are also in spaces where they can learn a lot in terms of developing their skills to get ready for that market. Okay,
Mr. Maruti, is depending on the formal employment that we are hoping the government provides, we're always crying Serikali's idea, the answer, or can we look elsewhere for these jobs? Because if we can't just sit down and settle for the bare minimum just because there was no job provided after I finished Form 4 or the tertiary section of my education.
Okay. Basically, I think the big problem in Kenya is we are training our children to become seekers.
Okay.
And this is the big gap that we have in this country. Because everyone goes to school to go and find a job. But unfortunately, the environment out there does not create jobs. And there's a big gap, and it's widening by the day. Every time you go out there, you find guys looking for jobs, but there are no jobs out there. Unfortunately, as they go to school, their biggest hope is, when I get out of school, I will get a job. So we need to change this notion of looking for jobs and start a culture of creating jobs.
Creating jobs.
Now, young people should start thinking of how they can create jobs, how they can bring, opportunities to other young people who will come around.
And when you're talking about creating jobs, are you talking about some entrepreneur creating a job for you, or are you talking about yourself creating?
Yeah. Basically, it's all about supporting one another.
Yeah.
And I believe entrepreneurship is the key. I'm a graduate of entrepreneurship and small business management. And I believe that this is the biggest solution to unemployment. When people venture into business and they start opportunities, they'll definitely create jobs for other people who are suffering out there. But if we wait for the formal sector to bring opportunities, definitely the gap will continue widening.
Mr. Miner, of course this is nothing new that we have the formal sector is not providing enough jobs. I'd like to know your take about people venturing out and standing on their own. It might not be easy, but should it be seen as a viable option? Because we're all hoping to be employed by government, by some NGO somewhere to give us good white-collar jobs, and we overlook a lot of opportunities out here. So what's your take on that?
We've been really romanticizing this idea of entrepreneurship, which I think is just a short-term solution.
Oh, really?
It's not a long-term solution, because most of these young people do not have the skills to run an enterprise.
Absolutely.
Yes, they're just fresh graduates. So we're just romanticizing this idea. So you find that most people come up with enterprises, and most of them fail.
Okay. So now,
what we should do is support the existing and high growth enterprises so as to create jobs.
Explain that term, existing and high growth enterprises. What are those?
So some of these big sectors, you find that, so for example, manufacturing sector, agricultural sector, there are these core sectors where we can support enterprises that can be able to absorb these graduates. So for example, in China, in Shenzhen, what they did is they created SEZs, which supported these high growth sectors and absorbed and created jobs for the young people in China.
All right, now speaking of them, because fine, not everyone is street smart or entrepreneurial, and we were discussing this young man who wound up being a watchman, and in the school where he got a B+ from, and we were wondering, wasn't he smart enough to figure out how to get another job? And we're going to have that story right now just to see the twists and turns, because twists and turns, and as fate will have it, sometimes we don't always achieve what we desire for and what we set out to do. This statement could be put into perspective listening to one Ernest Mikey, who went back to his previous secondary school to be a security guard after he failed to secure a job despite graduating from the University of Eldoret and scoring a B+ in his KCSE examination. And as Elvis Kosgei reports, Ernest Mikey is not alone. Cynthia Rotich, who studied anthropology at Moi University Eldoret, is a dejected lady whose future is anchored on depression and uncertainty. Take a look.
It's 9:30 a.m. and just like any other security guard, Ernest Maiki Kipchumba is busy manning this institution. Coincidentally, it happens to be the same school where he went through for his O-level education in 2008-2011 and secured a B+ to book him a place at the University of Eldoret, where he studied Bachelor of Science Statistics. Living in a country that without doubt churns out more graduates than the number of job vacancies readily available in the market, Mikey ended up settling in this job position that was nowhere near his dreams, just to make ends meet.
Mtu anajaribu maisha yake, unaweza pata hata mwenye ameanguka anaweza enda pale mzuri. Na unapata mwingine mwenye amepita tena kama mimi sikutarajia hata naweza kuwapata siku moja. Hata vile nimejaribu nikakosa, nikasema wacha niishie tu penye ndaishia. Kwa sababu nimejaribu kwa nguvu zote sijafaulu.
His income as a security guard enables him to pay for a single house at Cunett area, as well as buy food, supporting his younger siblings and his ailing mother.
Fika mahali unakata tamaa. Kwanza nikiwa University of Eldoret, vitu mingi sana imefika paka inanikasia kwanza wakati wa graduation. Inafika paka unakata tamaa, paka unasema hata wenye wanajoin Al-Shabaab wako na sababu. Kwa sababu maisha imekuwa ngumu sana.
Mikey is now basking in solitude. His academic certificates is a mirror of a bright man, but who has nothing to show for his hard work in school.
So, irrespective of that, he's still a humble young man. He's very obedient in his work.
Even when I was teaching him here, he could learn during the day. In the evening, he was a night watchman, but he was doing so well. So, as a teacher, I feel my effort was wasted.
Sasa nimejaribu kuapply Safaricom, nimejaribu kuapply wapi, nimejaribu hata supermarket karibu 3 hivi, sijafaulu.
Mikey is not alone. At Kaptich area in Turbo constituency, we meet Cynthia Jepkoech or Teach. Jepkoech studied at the prestigious Moi Girls High School in Eldoret, made it to Moi University. But for her, there's nothing to smile about. It is another day to go out on hunt for manual jobs.
Serikali sasa wangenisaidia kuniajiri kwa sababu naamini wakiadvertise ninaendanga kuona niko na qualifications, ninaenda interview sichukuliwi. Sasa sijui shida iko wapi, kwa sababu already ukishortlistiwa that means you are qualified.
What is more hurting for her is that despite the suffering resulting from lack of a job, the Higher Education Loans Board HELB has been fining her 5,000 Kenya shillings every month for the 40,000 Kenya shillings borrowed to finance her university education. To make it worse, the board has listed down the Credit Reference Bureau, and that has prevented her from getting a loan from money lending institutions.
Hata ukitafuta kazi wanataka clearance from HELB. Hata juzi si walikuwa nasema wenye wamedefault wanataka kufungwa. Sasa nashangaa mtu kama mimi watanifunga. Mimi sichakataa kulipa. Ningekuwa na hiyo pesa, in fact ningekuwa nimemaliza. Ili nisaidia.
Lakini sasa itakuwa makosa, tumetoa kila kitu, tumesomesha watoto na tena tunarudi kukaa na watoto nyumbani.
It is a disturbing tales of two unemployed youths who are among hundreds of thousands of others languishing in abject poverty. Elvis Kosgei, KTN News, Uasin Gishu County.
I mean, that comparison of being a graduate and what you're seeing there, it's so depressing in my opinion. Titus, you did tell us about what's happening in Shenzhen. How would such youth benefit from such an initiative in Kenya?
So ideally it's just the government intervening to support business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and now we're talking about government intervening, and we do know, let's be realistic,
Yes.
in Kenya these things you will wait until the cows come home. You're not going to see. So to me it feels like we need to take initiative. And I'll move over to you, Tessie. What do you feel? What kind of initiatives can people take, and what are the options? Because he's talking about having studied at the university, but he's considering Safaricom, he's considering supermarkets, he's settled for his previous watchman job. I mean, what could he do to move into some sort of reasonable employment given what all he has achieved academically?
I think, like you said, it's pretty unfortunate because beyond, we used to talk about you not being getting the right education to get a job, but now you are educated and you still can't get this job. So like I mentioned, when it comes to growing your skills, I mean, I'll talk about two things. In campus, I really tried to look for opportunities. There's that about young people. Are we out to look for information and opportunities that can help us grow beyond what we're doing in school? I mean, those students are smart. They're really smart. Then what else is Safaricom looking for this individual, from these individuals to actually hire them? So I went through a program called ISEC. I was actually president of ISEC in Daystar in 2017. And what ISEC does, it's a global youth movement that pretty much helps young people gain those skills while interacting with young people across the globe. So you meet young people who are innovative, you know, they're thinking beyond. Actually, there's no box. They're actually young people who are doing
open-minded,
big things. And, you know, it makes you very interested in knowing what is driving these people. So beyond having those opportunities in the enterprises or in those growing companies, look for opportunities where you can grow within campus. I think even now there are accelerator programs for young people within campus that are helping them hone their skills before they just join campus. I think there's a program called USUDI that really creates this high quality learning experiences for young people. There's autonomy that helps you start thinking about, okay, fine, if I'm not one to start looking for a job, then how do I start thinking of solutions to pretty much answer problems in the society or in the community that will actually create employment or pretty much
so aside from book knowledge, we need to have sort of the education that opens up your mind, prepares you. Mr. Maruti, do you agree with that? Is it just, is there a gap that needs to be filled? Because Daystar is a private university. Let's think about the public universities that have thousands of students and just even the lecturers cannot handle it. So how can this be fitted into the public university scene?
Basically, there is need for going an extra mile, because after the books, there is life after the books.
Absolutely.
And that is where now the journey begins, and it's a journey that it won't let you go. You have to live with it. But if we are nurtured in the sense that we just depend on getting a job, we'll find ourselves in misery. And I think there is need for us to be trained how to get something while we are still studying. Right now students just study. They go to school, they study, they come back home. It's holiday time, seasons and seasons of movies. It is time when guys come back home, they are being nurtured. I like the Asian culture. The Asians, if you go to a Hindu's shop, you'll find that their children, no matter how small they are working there. They're being told, carry this, put it there. But us Kenyans, when a kid comes around you, you'll chase them away. Tell them, get out of here.
Complain that the
these kids are disturbing. You'll take them back to the village. But the Asians will bring their kids on the table. They'll train them. They'll nurture them. By the end of their study, they take over the business. But us, we are not anywhere close to even the careers. We don't even read close to our kids. So kids do not have an example to follow. So they find themselves following examples on TV, examples from the villagers, or neighbors and stuff like that. So it is very important for us to start nurturing a culture of guys working while studying.
And I would imagine that this should start all the way, like you said, from the very young kids.
Grassroots.
Now, I'd like to know what you think about this, Mr. Miner. Should it start from the small kids, or is that too early?
I don't think it's too early, because the younger they are, they start gaining these skills while they are young. So the earlier the better. Then with this whole discussion, there's something that we always overlook or demonize, this informal sector. Everyone wants to join the formal sector, yet there are so many opportunities in the informal sector. People are making more money in the informal sector than the formal sector.
True.
So the recent economic survey found that only 3% of Kenyans who are in the formal sector earn more than 100,000.
Wow.
Yet most people in the informal sector are making more than this.
There was a story on, I think it was the Standard, or one of our papers, that said that there is a man selling smokies and
by the road.
The boiled eggs, and he makes 2,000 every single day. So you do the math, this is a Form 4 leaver, and he's able to make so much more than somebody who wakes up, puts on their suit and tie, and Now I'd like to know, Tessie, what does IDAI do with regards to employment, and how does it work with young people to help them with this sort of problem?
Okay, so what IDAI does is it's a company that pretty much offers on-demand host and hostesses services for events. So basically what you do when you go for conferences is this person you meet, the first person you meet before you actually sit down at your conference. So usually people love a good experience. I mean, everyone yearns for good experiences, and we never get this opportunity to get people who are trained, who are structured in a way that they look at this as an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to meet people that they would not normally meet on a day-to-day basis. So it provides that platform where through the program you actually learn a couple of skills, and you also get that experience of interacting with people who can help you open up your mind. So it's all about mindset. And when you mentioned such opportunities are in private universities. I mean, let me tell you, to be honest, ISEC actually thrives in public universities more than private universities. Like the bigger numbers are in UON, I mean, in KU, JKUAT, I mean, these opportunities are there. So how is it that young people can actually now access and make use of these opportunities for their development?
Yeah, so we're talking about access to people who can help you open up your mind, help you find opportunities. Mr. Maruti, when she talks about that, it comes to mind social media, applications, connectivity in society. Now, we are at an age where tech is so advanced that you cannot say you're so isolated from knowledge. That would be a lie. Whatever level you are, you have some sort of access. So I'm keen to bring focus away from the formal jobs, to bring a focus on the fact that outside formal jobs, you can actually find a way out. And so tell us about that connection, how one can take advantage of this. We're now a global village. How can somebody take advantage of that?
Basically, young people are very aggressive these days, but unfortunately they're aggressive on, looking at photos, checking people's status, and they're just watching movies online and stuff like that. I think it is now important for young people to change the direction and start looking at, information that adds value to them. They need to study, and even right now we have applications that have ideas, business ideas that can help you grow. And it gives you even, the capital that is needed, the time that is needed, and even, how you can grow in that business. So it is important for them to look for that information. Unfortunately, they lack mentorship. And that's where now people like us come in to support them by mentoring them and giving them information and encouraging them to grow and thrive in the business.
Have you been able to have an experience, a mentorship experience with a young person who you have helped? And what have you noticed are the disparities in terms of knowledge, in terms of opportunities through that experience?
Basically, we are in a microwave generation. I call it the microwave generation because right now people don't want to cook. They just want to boil food that is pre-cooked. And that makes entrepreneurship a little bit difficult for them because there is a process. TDGX talks about the process. For something to come out and to thrive, there needs to be a process. For a baby to come out, there's a process of those 9 months. For a flower to blossom, there is that process. But we are in an age where guys just want something ready on the table. And that's why when somebody gets out of school, they just want to come out and buy the job out. Go to somebody and buy the job. And that's what makes them not value the job. And even if they get the opportunities of business or doing anything, they do not take it seriously. So it is important for us to look for a connection with these people. And unfortunately, by the way, youth will not reach out to you.
That is the thing.
Okay? Now, it is up to us to reach out to them. At Empower Plus Solutions, we have a mentorship program. And we always reach out through churches, through the communities, through the chiefs and stuff like that. So we move out and we reach out to the youth, trying to talk to them, give them ideas, try to encourage them and tell them that it is not over until you win. Because life is hard out there, but if you become tougher and stronger, you can make a difference in the society. So they need to use the social media to thrive and not to waste time.
Not to waste time and bundles and
and bundles.
The little money that
and
they
ask for more bundles.
And ask for more from their parents who have been selling cows to take them to campus. Now, Mr. Miner, when we think about mentorship, where do you stand on this? Because I figure maybe it's an assumption if Cynthia had a proper mentor who would hold her hand and pull her away from plaiting hair in the village and show her this is where you can start, go and do this, put in the work, and this would happen. Where do you stand on the issue of mentorship?
It's quite critical for young people to have mentors because they hold their hands throughout the journey, because these are guys who have experienced what these young guys are going through, so they'll be able to guide them as they're going through all of this. So for example, while in university, what a mentor would try and tell them is try and get a competitive edge over your peers, because when you finish, all of you are fighting for the 74,000 jobs. So try and take advantage, get a competitive edge so that you're a bit more competitive compared to your peers. So mentorship is quite important. But then how many people are willing to mentor young guys as well?
That's another question.
That's the main issue.
So it cuts across generations. There's the microwave generation that will not reach out for mentors, and then there's the other generation that is not willing. So Tessie, what's your take on this one?
I mean, opportunity meets preparedness. I mean, you can't always expect, even if they reach out to you, they need to meet someone who is prepared, someone who is looking at their goals and being like, okay, fine, I actually need someone to help me develop this idea. So what is your maybe non-financial skill? And you're like, okay, I can't figure out how to make this, to monetize this. Can I get a mentor who can actually help me grow this idea, who can make me scale this idea? Meeting a mentor is one thing. You do 90% of the job,
work,
because then you come to the person and say, this is what I have and this is what I need, and they help you walk this journey. I know now there are a lot of people who are more driven to look for mentees, maybe in campus, and I think, to be honest, it really comes from you, because even when they come to you, you need to have some sort of mindset of this is the direction I want to take, and therefore this mentor is actually suitable to actually guide me through this. And for like people in high school, usually I think I had this conversation with my mom or my friends, and I tell them, if I was in high school, when I was in high school, if I had someone who over the holidays would tell me, okay, fine, Tessie, you want to be a lawyer, there's this lawyer who can actually work with you for a week. You move around with him, you carry his briefcase, look at what he does, experience his life, and be like, okay, fine, this is what I want to become. This is how it looks like. This is the reality, you know? Or file papers, you know, like you do the actual work, and then you understand that, you know, it comes a long way to get there. So if you do that, throughout your high school experience, you've tried out maybe 2-3 things, you actually understand from this pool and from my talent, I know what I want to become. Then finding a mentor is easy.
But some point, when we given the mentality that we have when we're campus, sometimes when you get out, you have your eyes set out on that anchoring job, on being a lawyer and being, you know, you don't want to do the mundane jobs that you as an intern would want to be. So when you're given an assignment, you're like, no, I want the big ones, you know? So how can we shift this mentality? Because everybody has to start from the bottom, you know, and carrying that briefcase, somebody would feel so wasted to do that, but then that's the way you start. I mean,
I'm a graduate.
You're a graduate. How dare do you ask me to do this? Mr. Maruti, what do you feel about this one? How do we change? How do we shift?
Young people are very confused right now. You know, parents are not at home. They don't have real friends. Young people do not have, you know, right things, the content. You know, sometimes I get mad when I listen to some radio stations. You know, they're just talking dirty things in the morning. And you feel like this is the time we need to be inspired, you know, but now they're just talking about dirty things, you know, and young people are listening to that content.
That is it.
So I don't know how we're going to handle this, but it is time we rise up and start giving these people the correct information, because they have access to this content, and every day that's what they're going through. Young people are facing these challenges because of the environment they are in. In this environment, we need to take the initiative to change that environment. Because if we don't change it, then even our kids who are smaller right now will even get a wise environment out there, because the attitudes right now are very wrong. Somebody feels entitled. You know, you find a kid asking the parent, you know, the other day I almost beat up somebody's kid because he was bullying the father. He was telling the father that, excuse me, Dad, I want this laptop and not the other. The father can't afford it. But the boy is on his neck, I need this one. And I was telling the boy, come on, you need to understand that this guy is paying your school fees. This guy is feeding you, the roof over your head, probably can't afford even the rent. But you're forcing him to buy this one because it looks nice. So it is time guys start seeing things differently. But the mirror has to be bigger. And this mirror has to be created by people. who will help them change their minds.
And that's in the formal sector. Let's shift to the informal sector, or what's outside the offices.
Okay.
We talk about agribusiness. This is a very profitable venture if you do it right. We had a story earlier about a man who was feeding his family, taking his kids to school because he tried tomatoes, failed, then tried farming some other plant, failed, then he turned to watermelons, and now he's making a killing. Tell that to a new graduate. I mean, today you probably be faced with a few questions. What do I look like farming? And but then these are very
dirty.
Yeah, it's dirty. You don't want to get our hands dirty. Oh, should I? Oh, there's also the option of buying from farmers and selling somewhere at the market. And these people make so much money. When you talk about to the sellers in the markets, even here in Nairobi, they make a lot of money. So, Mr. Miner, how do we shift our thoughts with regards to that?
So most graduates have a closed mind. So most guys think that just because I studied law, I have to be a lawyer. But that shouldn't be the case. There's so many other opportunities. There's so many other things that you can do with your education. So what most people should do and start thinking about is taking advantage of what's available to them. So for example, if you come from a rural area, came to Nairobi and studied, back in the village you have land. So take advantage of that, start farming.
And probably it's free because it belongs to your parents or somebody you know. So you could actually take advantage of it.
Take advantage of that, go back, start farming. Instead of waiting for this formal jobs that are not there.
And speaking of that, there also could be an integration between what you learned and what you have. So perhaps you learned to be an accountant of some sort, but then what you have is a piece of land. So there can be an integration between those two, using this particular knowledge and apply it to something else. You don't necessarily have to be a bazaar or somebody at some company. So Tessie, what do you feel about that? That integration, shifting, being open-minded. What do you think? Because I feel like if you were studied teaching and there's a journalism career opening somewhere, you could actually use your language and knowledge to become a news reporter or whatever. So what do you feel about that one?
So like he said, it's basically we need a mindset shift. I mean, we need to think, what resources do I have and what skills do I have to match to these resources to make to influence impact. I think when you think about the bigger picture, then a lot of things then change in terms of how you think, or pretty much how you look at stuff. So when you think about what influence can I make, what impact can I make in my community, then that aspect of, okay, I have land, my community actually doesn't have access to food or water, then you come up with a solution to that. So we need to start pretty much promoting a culture where people actually think of solutions. And beyond that, while you're growing up or while you're studying, you become self-aware about the things you're strong about, or things that you're weak on, and become someone who thinks of global things. You're not just, okay, what are people doing elsewhere? How can I use that to make that a reality here?
And there's a lot of information, I repeat, online everywhere, whereby you can go refer to this, see what so-and-so did it work for them? Look at similar countries. Some things might not apply to Kenya, but you can look at things that worked in other African countries, in Botswana, in South Africa. There are other countries that youth are actually doing things that we could apply to ourselves. So we shouldn't be closed-minded. At the same time, I think we need to be opening up to other outside markets. So if you train here to be an air conditioning expert, but then there are no but clearly there are countries that need this sort of resource. So what do you feel about this one, thinking outside the box, or even outside our borders in terms of jobs and opportunity?
Basically, young people have got to get out of that mindset that we just have to do what we were trained to do. Personally, I've worked more than 5 jobs while I was studying. Because my parents did not have the school fees, I had to do it myself. So I was working part-time and studying. That's the time you could do some things for your colleagues that you feel like, come on, you can't even talk to ladies because they are laughing at you because you are doing some funny things. I could wash clothes for people. I could go and clean their houses. Those kids from rich families, I could do that for them.
Wow.
Why? Because I need school fees.
You need the money.
You know, I was going to train some students in other schools. Why? Because I need money. Yeah, I had to play more rugby so that I can be paid allowances so that I can get money.
Yeah.
So you don't have to look at something as dirty. You know, I think there's an area called Njiru. That place only has exhausters. Yeah, and much as the exhausters carry dirty things, those guys are making a lot of money.
That is it.
And somebody was telling me there's somebody who does green, you know, it's called green movement, and he carries garbage and stuff like that. He tells me that the money that he makes from buildings is a lot of money.
Imagine
whenever
that.
he gets a contract to take garbage out of the building, he gets a lot of money, and all he needs is just plastic bags. He hires lorries, and they're making money.
And nobody wants to touch
Yeah,
trash.
nobody wants to touch trash. But where the trash is, that's where the money is.
Yeah, that is.
My notion is that people should think of the end result and not, you know, what they are going to do to get to the end result.
Get to the end
because if the attitude is, I'm going to touch the dirty thing, you will never work. Okay?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Maruti is now a lawyer. You're a lawyer right now? No, you're with Empower Plus Solutions. You're gainfully employed. That is after washing clothes for your colleagues. So, I mean, this is it's all about turning trash into treasure. And I'd like all of you to give a last word of advice to anybody out there who's jobless, feeling down because they have not been gainfully employed. I'll start with you, Mr. Miner. Just briefly, an advice to the youth out there, unemployed and hoping for something better.
So my advice would be they should take advantage of what they have around them. So if you have access to a smartphone, then take advantage of that. If you have access to land, take advantage of that and make good use of what you can access.
Yeah, make use of what you have. Over to you, Tacy.
I think it's only in Kenya where, and I think I was discussing this with my friends, where if you decide I have my school hours from Monday to Friday, and Saturday and Sunday I can work at Java to just cover, you know, any of my school fees or to cover my pocket money. And you think my friends are actually going to think this is a joke. It's only here. You need to change our mindset, one. And two, look out for those opportunities. I mean, they're there. Look out for opportunities where you can grow your skills, where you can learn, then present yourself as an employable person, and definitely you're going to get employed.
Finally, Mr. Maruti.
Yeah, what I would say to the young people is they need to think big. By thinking big, you expand your horizon. They need to start small. You know, when you start small, you humble yourself, you make your mistakes, and you can grow from the mistakes you make. And finally, they should start now. You know, action changes things. If you don't act, nothing moves. Yeah? So it is up to the youth to get down and start doing the hard stuff, because nothing great comes easy.
Yeah, nothing great comes easy. And on that very inspirational note, Morning Express takes a short break. When we come back, we'll be giving you some international news and keeping you updates to what's making headlines across the borders. Do stay tuned.